You ever notice how quickly opportunity disappears when politics walks in the room? Because in 2025, it's not just about who's qualified anymore, it's about who's welcome. Trump's new immigration stance is shaking up everything. And for 7 Asian nations, that dream of working in America may be over for good. These aren't rumors, these are real shifts in trade, policy, and trust. From Vietnam to Pakistan, millions of lives are being reshaped, dreams interrupted, and economies thrown off balance. So the question now isn't just who gets in, it's who America's shutting out next. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. Number 7, Vietnam. Vietnam, the country known for its relentless work ethic and booming industries, now faces one of its toughest challenges yet, the possible closure of American doors. And it's not because the people changed, but because politics did. Here's the brutal truth. Washington and Hanoi's relationship has always been a balancing act. The US wants allies in Asia, but it also wants control. And Trump's policies draw that line sharper than ever. One major reason Vietnamese workers may soon find themselves locked out of US job programs is trade and labor disputes. American officials have repeatedly accused Vietnam of weak worker protections, inconsistent labor laws, and unfair competition in global markets. Trump, obsessed with America first, sees this as both a threat and an opportunity to favor countries that play strictly by his rules. But there's a deeper layer to this tension. China. Vietnam's growing closeness to Beijing is making Washington nervous. The US doesn't like seeing its supposed allies cozying up to its biggest rival. For Trump, foreign labor is no longer just about skills, it's about loyalty. And in his playbook, Vietnam's friendship with China is a red flag waving too high. That's why the once thriving visa approvals for Vietnamese workers, especially in healthcare, hospitality, and manufacturing, are slowing to a crawl. Skilled applicants who once got work visas in weeks are now waiting months. Some are rejected without clear reasons, others face repeated background checks, endless interviews, and tougher screening than ever before. And while it's not an official ban, the numbers don't lie. Fewer approvals, longer waits, and rising rejections. The silent blockade has already begun. If you're from Vietnam or know someone affected by these new policies, drop a in the comments below. Let's see how many are watching this play out in real time. The sad irony, the US needs Vietnam more than it admits. American factories rely on Vietnamese manufacturing, US tech firms hire Vietnamese engineers, yet under Trump's leadership, the US is tightening the rope instead of building the bridge. For thousands of Vietnamese workers dreaming of a career in America, 2025 might mark the end of that dream, or at least a long, uncertain pause. Some will look to Europe, others to Japan or Australia. But the sting will remain, because when you spend years building a future in one direction and someone slams the door shut, not because of your skill, but because of your passport, that's not immigration policy. That's politics dressed as protection. In Vietnam, once seen as one of Asia's most promising labor partners, now finds itself caught between two giants, China's embrace and America's distrust. Both powerful, both dangerous, and for millions of Vietnamese workers, both standing in the way of their future. Number 6, India. When you think of global talent, one country that always comes to mind is India, home to some of the sharpest engineers, coders, and healthcare professionals on the planet. But in 2025, that brilliant workforce may find itself on the wrong side of America's immigration wall. Why? Because for Trump, it's not about skill, it's about symbolism. India's once privileged position in US labor programs, especially the H-1B visa, is collapsing under the weight of Trump's America First doctrine. These visas, which allowed thousands of Indian professionals to work for tech giants like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, are now facing unprecedented restrictions. Trump's administration argues that foreign workers are taking American jobs, despite the fact that many of those roles can't be filled domestically. The result? A growing pile of rejected applications and families left in limbo. Skilled software developers, doctors, and nurses, many already offered positions, are suddenly told their paperwork didn't make the cut. Companies are panicking. Silicon Valley depends on Indian engineers to keep its systems running. Hospitals rely on Indian nurses to fill critical shortages, but politics doesn't care about productivity. It cares about headlines. Under Trump's renewed stance, Indian applicants are facing stricter interviews, extra document checks, and longer wait times. The message is clear. The US wants fewer immigrants, no matter how skilled they are. If you know someone from India chasing the American dream, type in the comments to show support and let's make their stories heard worldwide. And the ripple effect doesn't stop there. Families who planned to move together are being torn apart. Students on training programs can't extend their stays. Even Indian workers already living in the US are facing uncertainty as visa renewals get delayed or denied. And this isn't just about economics, it's about trust. India has long been one of America's strongest strategic allies in Asia, working side by side on defense, trade, and tech development. But now, with every denied visa, that relationship cracks a little more. Trump's administration claims it's protecting American jobs. But let's be honest, America's tech empire was built by immigrants. Indians helped shape Silicon Valley into the powerhouse it is today. Shutting them out doesn't make America stronger, it makes it slower. The irony is painful. While the world competes to attract India's talent, America is shutting its doors on the very minds that helped build its success. So as we move deeper into 2025, Indian professionals are being forced to look elsewhere. Canada, Australia, even Dubai, nations that are more than happy to welcome them with open arms. In the US, it's learning a hard lesson. When you push away the people who built your future, don't be surprised when your progress starts to stall. Number 5, Iran. Iran, rich in culture, strong in science, and filled with some of the most resilient people on earth. But when it comes to working in the United States, Iranian citizens might as well be facing a brick wall wrapped in red tape and politics. Let's be real, this has nothing to do with Iranian nurses, doctors, or engineers not being qualified. It's about political baggage. Trump's administration has made it clear, if a country's government doesn't align with America's interests, its people pay the price. Under the renewed security-first framework, Iran's relationship with the US is defined by suspicion. Nuclear tensions, regional conflicts, and old wounds from decades of mistrust have turned visa approvals into a nightmare. Even Iranians with spotless backgrounds and advanced degrees are finding it nearly impossible to get through the system. In 2025, Iranian professionals applying for US work permits face what experts are calling the invisible embargo. It's not officially labeled as a ban, but the outcome feels like one. Visa approvals are down by more than 80% compared to pre-2020 levels. Engineers, scientists, and healthcare professionals, all vital contributors to global innovation, are being screened out before they even reach the interview stage. And let's not forget the human side. Families separated, dreams delayed, futures put on hold. A skilled Iranian nurse with years of experience in Dubai can't get a transfer to a US hospital. A tech developer with a startup ready for Silicon Valley funding blocked at the embassy. If you believe politics should never decide someone's future, drop A or the word fairness in the comments below. Let your voice echo for those who can. Now here's the irony, while the US tightens restrictions, other Western countries like Germany, Canada, and the Netherlands are opening their doors to Iranian professionals. They're not blind to Iran's talent, they see opportunity where America sees risk. Trump's stance is clear. No deals with nations that don't align with US values. But the consequence is brutal. Skilled Iranian professionals are leaving the American dream behind, not because they gave up, but because they were pushed out. For a country that prides itself on being the land of opportunity, America seems to have forgotten that opportunity doesn't wear a flag. It's human. The impact goes deeper than individual dreams. Universities lose researchers, hospitals lose doctors, companies lose innovators, and in the long run, America loses the very diversity that once fueled its greatness. So while Washington plays power games and signs sanctions, thousands of Iranian families remain in limbo, educated, experienced, and locked out of a system that once promised fairness. That's not policy, it's punishment disguised as patriotism. Number 4, Cuba. Cuba, a country that has spent decades caught between pride and politics, resilience and restriction. But now it's facing another blow, one that directly hits the dreams of thousands of Cubans who once looked to America as their only path to progress. Under Trump's 2025 policies, Cuba's access to US work programs is tightening faster than ever. While Washington says it's about national security and migration control, the truth runs much deeper. This isn't just about visas, it's about ideology. Trump's team views Cuba as a symbol of defiance. The Castro legacy still lingers in American politics like an old grudge that never died. And even though Cuba has opened up in small ways, tourism, private enterprise, cultural exchanges, it's not enough to erase decades of distrust. As a result, Cuban workers, nurses, hospitality staff, and technicians are being quietly squeezed out. The US is rejecting visa applications at record rates. The programs that once gave Cuban families hope, agricultural exchanges, skilled worker visas, and training programs are drying up. If you believe ordinary workers shouldn't pay for political games, drop A in the comments below. Let's see how many still stand for fairness over politics. For Cubans, this shift hits hard. Many grew up believing that if they worked hard enough, studied long enough, and proved themselves skilled enough, they could one day make it to America. Not to escape Cuba, but to help their families survive. Now those same people are being told no before they even reach the interview window. Processing times are painfully slow. Some applicants wait over a year with no answer. Others are rejected because the quota is full, even when it's not. And for those already in the US under temporary permits, renewals are being delayed or denied, forcing them to return home and start over. But here's the irony. The US still depends on Cuban professionals in certain industries. Cuban-trained doctors have helped fill critical roles in American healthcare, especially in rural areas. But Washington's politics doesn't bend for practicality, it bends for pride. So while the US claims to promote democracy and opportunity, it's slamming the door on one of the most hardworking and family-centered nations in the Caribbean. For Cuba, this isn't just a policy setback, it's personal. Every denied visa represents a lost dream, a broken promise, and another reminder that geopolitics always has a human cost. Because at the end of the day, Cubans aren't asking for charity, they're asking for a chance to work, a chance to grow, a chance to prove that their potential is bigger than their politics. And right now, America isn't listening. Number 3, Laos. Laos. Small, quiet, and often overlooked on the global stage. But this modest Southeast Asian nation has been one of the hardest hit by America's tightening immigration and work policies under Trump's 2025 revival of America First. Unlike bigger economies such as India or China, Laos doesn't have the same political influence or diplomatic leverage. And that's exactly why its citizens are being silently pushed out of opportunities abroad. No protests, no negotiations, no headlines. Just quiet rejection. Here's what's happening. Lao workers who once applied for seasonal jobs, service roles, or exchange training programs in the United States are now facing near total shutdowns. Every year, hundreds of Lao citizens dream of getting into agricultural, hospitality, or caregiving jobs that promised decent pay and the chance to help their families. But in 2025, that door is closing fast. Why? Because Trump's immigration reform doesn't see Laos as a priority partner. The administration's new guidelines give preference to countries with strong economic ties and strategic alliances. Laos isn't one of them. With no major trade deals, no military partnership, and limited US presence, Lao workers are simply being pushed aside. Even for students, it's a bureaucratic nightmare. Those applying for study work visas now face endless documentation demands and higher rejection rates. Some applicants have been waiting 14 months for a response that never comes. If you believe small nations deserve equal opportunities too, drop A in the comments, because every hardworking person, no matter where they come from, deserves a fair chance. The US Embassy in Vientiane has quietly reduced its visa quotas for Laos since late 2024. According to immigration analysts, the approval rate for work visas has dropped by over 70% compared to pre-2019 levels. That's not just a statistic. That's hundreds of families losing hope each year. And while America shuts its doors, neighboring countries like Thailand and Japan are snapping up Lao workers, offering new programs for construction, agriculture, and elder care. But let's not mistake that for good news. These alternatives don't pay as much as US jobs and often come with longer hours and fewer rights. The bitter truth? Laos isn't being punished for anything it did wrong, it's being ignored because it's not influential enough. A victim of geopolitics, not policy. For a country where families depend on remittances to survive, these new restrictions are devastating. Mothers, fathers, and young graduates who once dreamed of earning dollars abroad are now being told their dreams don't align with US interests. It's not just unfair, it's cruel, because opportunity shouldn't depend on how big your economy is, it should depend on how hard you're willing to work for it. Number 2, Myanmar. Myanmar, a nation rich in resources, faith, and resilience. But right now, it's caught in one of the toughest immigration crackdowns under Trump's 2025 America First reinstated agenda. For thousands of Myanmar citizens, the dream of working in the US is fading faster than ever. And this time, it's not just policy. It's politics wrapped in punishment. The United States has long viewed Myanmar as unstable because of its ongoing internal conflicts and human rights concerns, but under Trump's leadership, that perception has hardened into a near wall. Officials now categorize Myanmar as a high-risk country, meaning visas for work, training, or even short-term professional exchanges are almost impossible to get approved. Even highly skilled professionals, doctors, engineers, IT specialists are facing rejection after rejection. For example, in 2023, over 4,000 Burmese health workers applied for nursing programs and medical exchanges in the US. Only about 12% were approved. Fast forward to 2025, that approval rate has now dropped below 5%. Now that approval percent. The irony? Many of these workers come from backgrounds that desperately need stable income, people fleeing conflict zones, or those supporting families devastated by inflation back home. But under the guise of national security, America's door is closing. If you believe hard work should outweigh politics, comment, hope, or drop a below. Let's make sure their stories are not forgotten. Trump's policy also affects Myanmar's students and trainees who once relied on U.S. programs for skill development. Universities that used to welcome Burmese scholars with open arms are now turning them away due to visa freezes. Even joint ventures in agriculture and infrastructure that depended on Myanmar's labor have been quietly canceled. Meanwhile, other nations are stepping in. Japan, Singapore, and South Korea have started fast-tracking Burmese workers to fill labor shortages. But let's be clear, none of these destinations offer the same opportunities or salaries the US once did. And yet, behind the politics and paperwork are real lives. A Burmese mother who worked 12-hour shifts in Thailand just to pay for her son's nursing school application to America denied twice. Exchange from Yangon, who spent 2 years learning English and preparing for an exchange program, only to be told no slots available. Skilled technicians whose U.S. employers were forced to withdraw offers because of security clearance delays. It's heartbreaking because the workers aren't the problem, the politics are. Myanmar's people are some of the hardest working in Southeast Asia. They've endured coups, economic collapse, and global isolation and still show up every day with resilience. But now they're being shut out by a system that rewards alignment over ability. For the US, this isn't just a missed opportunity, it's a moral failure. Because the truth is, no wall or visa restriction can stop determination. It only exposes which nations value people and which use them as pawns. Number 1, Pakistan, a nation of nearly 250 million people, a country that produces some of the sharpest minds, toughest workers, and most resilient dreamers on earth. Yet, in 2025, its citizens are staring down one of the harshest U.S. immigration and employment bans under Trump's revived America First policy. The reason? Officially, it's national security. Unofficially, it's politics. A dangerous mix of suspicion, stereotypes, and decades of foreign policy tension. The Trump administration has quietly placed Pakistan in a high-risk labor origin category, which essentially means don't expect a work visa anytime soon. This hits deep. For decades, Pakistani workers, engineers, nurses, IT experts, truck drivers, and mechanics have played key roles across the United States. From Silicon Valley startups to Midwest hospitals, they've proven indispensable. But in 2025, the system that once relied on their skill is turning its back on them. Visa approvals have plummeted by over 80% since 2022. The H-1B work visa, once a pathway for Pakistan's best tech talent, is now almost impossible to secure. Those lucky enough to get through face months of security clearance delays, which often end in quiet denials. If you believe hardworking people shouldn't be punished for politics, drop A in the comments. Let's stand for fairness, not fear. And here's the heartbreaking part. These restrictions don't just affect workers. They destroy entire family plans. Parents who saved for years to send their children to America for studies are now seeing those dreams collapse under new rules. Nurses who once supported entire households on U.S. remittances are being forced to stay home, unemployed. Trump's administration claims these policies protect American jobs, but data tells a different story. According to a 2024 U.S. Department of Labor report, foreign professionals filled less than 2% of total American jobs, yet contributed over $60 billion, 0 cents, in productivity gains annually. Pakistani workers, particularly in the healthcare and logistics industries, are part of that success. Cutting them off doesn't protect America, it weakens it. The irony? While the US tightens its doors, countries like Canada, Australia, and the UAE are welcoming Pakistanis with open arms. Canada alone has increased its skilled worker intake from Pakistan by 42% since 2023. Because where one nation sees risk, others see potential. Still, the human cost is undeniable. Behind every denied visa is a story of disappointment. A father unable to send money home, a graduate unable to use her degree, a dreamer forced to give up on the American promise. America once symbolized freedom and opportunity, but in 2025, for many Pakistanis, it now represents exclusion and uncertainty, because this isn't about borders anymore. It's about belonging. And right now, for Pakistanis, that sense of belonging has been ripped away.